Thank you, Dev, for the opportunity. Yeah, so I'm in Patna and I met the Chief Secretary, the Development Commissioner, Secretaries of Social Welfare, Education Department, Health, as well as WCD. So I'm trying to explore what I did in Karnataka, if that can be replicated in Bihar as well. And so far there's a positive response, but I don't know how it works. I have given multiple proposals for action based on my learning within Karnataka. So Chief Secretary has directed different departments to look at and explore how it can be taken forward. But how much time it will take, when it will happen, I am not sure. But in Karnataka, I was able to track the decision has been taken, how it is moving. So today's presentation, I'll put around my experience as a Indian Administrative Fellow. I had given a brief in my previous podcast about how I left corporate sector and joined fellowship in public health. That was with National Institute of Naturopathy, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India, where I work on efficacy of nature cure for chronic illnesses. So today, in this session, I would like to share my learning within Government of Karnataka and the work I try to do and give a recommendation in terms of eradication of malnutrition, anemia, or reduction in NCDs or climate action. As of now, I'm working on the detailed planning for Government of Karnataka on the climate action, and hopefully it will move to the next stage. Last week I had a meeting with Commissioner of Disaster Management Authority. I'll give you perspective on that also. So to start with, I joined Government of Karnataka in June 2023 as the Indian Administrative Fellow. My first responsibility assigned by Dr. Salin Aziz, who is the Chief Secretary now, is to eradicate malnutrition anemia. She said that this problem is going on for so many decades, but we don't have any solution. So she wanted me to research, look at why it is continuing, why the number is increasing, it is not reducing. The number of Karnataka based on NFHS Survey 5 reflected around 65% children in the age group of 0 to 5 is with severe anemia and malnutrition. At the same time, the infant mortality rate is increasing, pregnancy failure is increasing. So she wanted me to look at and share a different perspective compared to the intervention that is being done by government. So I started with looking at the existing intervention, and I found that there are many interventions that is around the pharmaceutical industry, wherein they keep on recommending IFA tablets. And sir, my video is on.
Yes, your video is on. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
So IFA tablet, and then they work on fortification of rice. But when I started looking for evidence, was there any research paper, is there any scientific evidence that it can work, it did not exist. So what I found is, by and large, it is all revolving around some commercial vested interests who are lobbying in different government establishment, whether it is central government or state government, and they keep on recommending something which doesn't solve the problem. That is the typical pharma approach, wherein they don't resolve the problem. They look at creating a slavery or consumer approach, wherein they keep on giving medicine or tablets and syrup to the people. So that is where my research started. What went wrong? Why is that we have this problem for last 5 or 6 decades? And in spite of spending billions and trillions of rupees over the decades, the problem continues. So that is where I started researching on the changes that has happened not only in India, because this problem persists in almost every country. It's not India. Everywhere the same problem is there. At the same time, pregnancy failure, the maternal mortality, infant mortality is all increasing. It is not getting resolved. So what I found is that there was a intervention that was planned by US security forces, wherein they looked at India as a threat. They said Indian population can impact the global peace. It can result into large number of army, which can impact global south. So that is where they started intervention, and it was surprising for me that they talked about that we need to push India to move to wheat. They have written that India should move to soya. They have written that India should move to milled rice, and that was a strategy for depopulation in the country. That was really triggering my thought, and that is where I started looking further and found that Green Revolution was nothing but a similar part of similar agenda, wherein US aid started pumping a lot of grants to India to move towards agrochemicals and pesticide and hybrid seeds and all that. And most of this today, we know that it is all nutrition deficient, and all this agrochemical and toxic insecticide, pesticide is nothing but a slow poison. That is another reason all these NCDs are rising. If you look at diabetes or hypertension or cardiovascular or any other disease, has a root to all this poison on the platter what we are all consuming. And that is where I started looking for what was the situation before green revolution, and how this became norm across the country, wherein government machinery and entire taxpayers' money was given to the agrochemical and hybrid seed agency to subsidize and give it to the farmers. So what I realized is that they talked about there was a bookmari in Bengal and Bihar and all of that, but I did not find the evidence that it was an issue across the country. It was a temporary issue during World War and heavy rains and all that, but India never ever had a problem with the yield. But they used that incident for a short time to start pushing the extra yield that was produced in US, that was a wheat, in the name of US and all of that, and that slowly, gradually become a pattern. And once they started giving grant, they started driving the policies of the country. They enforce the family planning, which has become health and family welfare. Almost everything what we see today, the challenge is all revolving around funding which came from World Bank, IMF or USAID or ADB. All that has created a problem in the country, wherein we still have $650 billion as a long-term loan, right? And all this has never ever solved the problem. When they started providing the hybrid seed, they said this hybrid seed will result into high yield. That failed. Then they said now we need to provide some fertilizer, right? That fertilizer also did not work. Then they said we need to have an improved fertilizer or improved variety of yield. That also failed. Then they said that this seed needs a lot of water, right? It doesn't work without so much of water. The way our indigenous seed was working, they started pushing the government to invest on the dams and canals and all of that. That resulted into heavy expenditure of the taxpayer money, which was initially given by the grant, but finally it became a long-term loan on the country, which are still repaying. I don't know how long we are going to pay. Then I looked at what was the condition before the Green Revolution, and I found that India has a diverse agriculture system, wherein it was all seasonal based on the native seed, and all this native seed were rain-fed. Which to put the seed based on the season, it was growing well. But when we moved from the diverse cropping pattern to monocropping, wherein they enforced that we did not do all that what we are doing today, where there's a different variety of millet. They enforced the rice and wheat. And when they stopped multiple things in the country, they said that wheat production has increased, but they did not account that what we have stopped. The same land was growing so many things, and they said, okay, fine, earlier 20% space was being consumed for wheat. Now it is an entire 70-80% has been used. And that was positioned as a increase in the yield, that this was the condition, this is what we have done. But they never ever factored that what we stopped. So now if you look at Indian system has a diverse diet, and each of the millets what we had something which is in highest quantity. For example, ragi was highest in calcium. Then we have jawar with high amount of folic acid, bajra with high amount of iron. When we stopped all of this, that directly resulted into kuposhan or malnutrition, anemia. But they never ever looked at the root cause of the problem. They looked at that as opportunity to start pumping taxpayer monies to push IFA tablets and all that. Now, I have not come across, in spite of researching, is there any evidence that IFA tablet or now what is being done is fortification on rice has ever solved the problem? It doesn't exist. But there are many papers which are exist wherein the intervention was given to children with malnutrition with ragi malt or jawar or bajra as a part of dietary intervention, and then situation improved. After that, I started looking for the evidence in the current situation, and I found that with the Anemia Mukt Karnataka initiative, wherein I initiated a hemoglobin testing, the outcome was really surprising. In Karnataka, we have Mysore Mandya, wherein as per the cultural prevalence, we are still consuming ragi, irrespective of nutrition deficient food that is being supplied by ICDS or PDS system. There, the anemia percentage came out was around 20%. At the same time, Kalyan Karnataka region, which is also a region with very high prevalence of multidimensional poverty, the anemia percentage was something around 80%. That was really triggering my thought process. So I spent some time in Mysore Mandya also to look at what is happening there, and also went to Kalyan Karnataka in Gulbarga. I spent a week there. That in spite of the climatic condition is good for growing bajra and jawar, yes, they are growing. Why the prevalence of anemia is so high? What I found is that in Mysore and Mandya, when they grow, they have ragi muddi and many other dishes. Ragi huri uttu is given to the children. Is a part of diet, irrespective of whether they get a free PDS or ICDS in their home. But at the same time, in Kalyan Karnataka region, what I found in spite of they grow bajra and jawar, they sell it in the market and they start consuming PDS, rice and wheat. And same thing is happening for ICDS. That could be a region of very high prevalence of anemia. Similar pattern exists, the low prevalence of anemia in North Karnataka, Hubli, Dharwad and all that. There people still consume jawar. So this came out very clearly, and then I started working on creating a overall state plan on how we can introduce jawar, bajra, ragi as a part of dietary intervention under ICDS and PDS and midday meal scheme. Initially, I did not know that there is an option to provide all this as a part of central government scheme. The initial costing was not matching the costing budgetary constraint that was there in ICDS. ICDS director issued a letter to me and said that what you have designed and planned, it is expensive, and then the budgetary provision what we have is only 8 rupees per beneficiary per day for children and girls and all that. So that was a additional challenge, and they started looking for how do I solve this challenge. I came across the Lok Sabha discussion and different documentation in the central government portal, wherein central government in collaboration with Niti Aayog has proposed to provide millet at 1 rupee per kg for ICDS and MDA. And it was shocking that nobody was aware within the state that such a system exists. So the reason to do that was the central government said that the food corporation in India do not have a policy to procure millet and distribute as a part of ICDS MDM, because across the country we don't have such yield that is available today. So they focus more on providing the milled rice that is nutrition deficient and wheat with gliding glycoprotein with a mucoadhesive property. That is one of the root cause of almost every NCDs today. That is what I concluded. So they said that we can provide an option to the state to do the analysis of total requirement of millet within the state and share with the central government that this is a total requirement, and state can also work on the yield planning within the state, wherein after approval by the central government will provide MSP to the farmer, and ICDS and MDM can get millets at 1 rupee per kg. So with that, I started exploring option, how do I introduce the same. It was very tough, a lot of struggle, because what I found is ICDS is also infamous as the integrated corruption development scheme, wherein the rice and other things that is given for Anganwadis that is being sold in the market. So the challenge was not to how to implement, challenge was that how they can sell the millets in their market, because Idli Dosa Corner don't want millets to be used there. So that was a challenge, but again the support of the Chief Secretary, we introduced Bajra in ICDS, and we also partnered with Annapurna Trust that is coming under Satya Sai institution, when they agreed to provide ragi malt as a part of dietary intervention free of cost, which could be supported by the CSR. So now today, Bajra was introduced in ICDS and Ragi has been introduced as a morning nutrition in Karnataka. Almost 50 lakhs people, children are getting ragi malt, wherein we are leveraging the milk that is being provided by the state government. We are mixing the ragi powder with milk powder and giving a ragi malt in the morning. So that was success story. But scaling up has continued to be a challenge. How we can follow there's a amendment in nutrition policy at the central government level. We have National Food Security Act, and there's a schedule 2 that has come in January 2023, which has dismantled the earlier pharmaceutical driven model of calorie and protein, wherein it has spoken about that we need to look at not only protein and calorie, we need to look at zinc, we need to look at calcium, we need to look at folate, we need to look at many other micronutrients that is not there in the previous formula of calorie based chart and all that. So there also I did a planning and shared. In Bihar also I have proposed a similar thing that can be implemented here, because the number of children with malnutrition, anemia, and for the pregnant lactating moment is also very high in Bihar. So that is on the eradication of malnutrition and anemia perspective. At the same time, the second thing which I also explored, that why the infant mortality is going high, why the maternal mortality is increasing, why the pregnancy failure is increasing, which is causing the negative spiral of the population in the country. Similar thing has happened in China as well. And there I realized that because of this nutrition deficiency, our innate immunity has been compromised. And the only thing which can be done is to redesign the entire nutritional pattern, which can have sprouts, which can have little bit of fruits, which could be seasonal, which is not expensive, and all that has a direct relationship with the NCDs also. What I found is that the wheat, the Indian wheat was small in size, it was red in color, little reddish in color, and that did not have the kind of gluten what we have today. The size of the hybrid seed is larger, and that has a people call it as a gluten, but I went deeper into it, that how the gluten is impacting so many diseases and how it is directly proportional to both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And I found that the gluten has a gliadin glycoprotein with a mucoadhesive property. That is something which is becoming a barrier to absorb nutrition, and that is creating a layer of toxin in the gastrointestinal tract or the colon. And what I found based on guiding some people with a heavy number of diabetic parameter, that within 3 weeks the diabetes pattern can be reversed completely by changing from the this wheat, hybrid wheat, or going back to the khapri wheat, which doesn't have that kind of toxic glycoprotein with mucoadhesive property. I found that within 1 week, somebody was taking 3 insulin injection came down to 1, and within a month, the need for insulin or tablet was not needed. The challenge is the person I guided was a doctor, and he was more worried that how my system or business will continue than the problem that got solved for his own life. So that is where we need to do a deeper research, get more evidence with a systematic way, and publish the result which can help to migrate from the current hybrid seed to something what we had Indian, how we can preserve or restart the native seed. It doesn't have that kind of gliadin glycoprotein. So this is the area which I worked on the nutrition side of it. So I will move to the what I did in climate action, but I'm open to question on this before I move further.
Over to the members, please.
Yamathani ji.
Yes, Mathani ji.
Yeah, thank you, respected Sinha. It's really a treat to listen to you with such a great detail about the things. I have two, three things, because there is no doubt, and over the years, the literature and the reading and everything is coming to the conclusion that the kind of seeds, the kind of food we are eating is adulterated. More we use chemical fertilizer, it is harmful, and the whole agricultural practices which are being done in the country are not sustainable. So this is one thing, in one aspect we all know about it. I have two, three things, because I read this book, Sapiens of Harari. He wrote at one place that this wheat revolution is the biggest fraud in the human history. Somewhere he has also mentioned in that book also. In the Indian context, because the whole the imported varieties and others, it started in 1960s, and I was reading a book recently. It is before me on the Swaminathan ji, Professor M. S. Swaminathan, and it reads like this. I am reading a special paragraph which is before me now. A major concern of the country at that time was dependence on imports to maintain food grain buffer stock for various needs. In 1966, the country imported 10 million tons of food grains under PL 480. To accelerate production in 1966, the bold decision taken at the instance of Sri C. Subramaniam, who used to be a big man that time. India imported 18,000 tons seed of Mexican wheat, the largest amount of seed import in a single contingent in the history of agriculture. And then it keep on reading all this, and they say as a result of these things and the development of sustainable agronomic practices helped in achieving the quantum jump in wheat production from of 17 million tons in 1968. So the point I am trying to underline here is this key. Country was going through a phase where 10 million tons of the grains were imported in a particular year, and the food security was at the stake. And at that time, a decision was taken that how to improve the yield, and there are results which show that the yield was improved. When I was listening, you say that the yield which is improved is not necessarily the absolute growth, but it is on the many factors which is dependent on that. Because over the period, when we look at the retrospect, we find that it is not only the seed, but other things also happen in parallel. But now, and that was the time when India started food security, this Food Corporation of India, this fair price shops, everywhere we are doing all these things. Now, there is a typical predicament and dilemma before the country as of now, that sustainable seeds, sustainable practices, diversification of food stock, all things government has been doing also, as you have rightly mentioned in your these things. Just I would like to listen you on the practicability aspects also. Suppose Punjab is suffering from the land degradation, or Madhya Pradesh is going towards the wheat now in a big way, or many countries, many places they are changing the pattern also. That how much time it will take to switch from the present pattern if government do the accelerated efforts, or if it continues to go like this, then what are the implications for the country and society? And overall cost economics also, it depends on that. These 3 points, perhaps, if you can reflect on that, that will be really of the great use. Thank you.
Sure. So, as you said that we said we have imported wheat. When you look at and read the history, that wheat was pushed by US of the wheat yield that was extra, that was potentially causing the inflation in the US, right? And that is where they said that it's better we push that to India and Bangladesh or any other developing country, right, to make the price stable and all of that. So that is something which is there in history, and it was also part of depopulation agenda. That it is written there in the depopulation NSSM 200 that was created by US Defense, and they said we need to push all of this to India. I could not understand the relationship that point of time, but I understand today because wheat has been the root cause of almost every NCD that can be verified by stopping wheat. Most of the chronic illnesses can be reversed. Now, coming to second point, that India was known to be a Krishi Pradhan Desh. I did not find any evidence till date wherein there was any scarcity or something like that, except some situation when there's the Indo-China or the Bangladesh war and all of that, or World War. Other than that, I do not see any major problem. Even if there was a problem in the Bengal and Bihar for short duration, and if there was a supply chain that existed, we could have supplied from any other state that did not have a problem, right? I looked at the newspaper cutting for that point of time. I found that it was not a real problem. It was a problem for storage. In India, in Bihar and Bengal did not have a storage capacity. So storage capacity was needed to protect the food from heavy rains and all that. So I found a note written by collector that point of time when the Bengal and Bihar suffered, what was happening and how they were trying to protect the food that was already available. So it was Never ever problem because the agriculture was the primary occupation for the country. It was all fabricated false narrative to push India to the green revolution that was today we know, right, was all driven by the industries. Who is the beneficiary? The chemical industry, the hybrid seed industry, and the same industry are also have other sister concern, the other pharmaceutical industry. So if you look at one side, they pushed all this toxin to the people of India or maybe Africa or other developing country. At the same time, they benefited by pushing the health and family welfare that was designed only to sell the chemical or pharmaceutical to the public at large. Now coming to how do we actionize this, how to re-implement the Indian system of agriculture once again. What I've done here is I have submitted a proposal in Karnataka to nurture Karnataka Organic Federation. Now if you look at the success story of Amul, why it became so large? Because government supported them to do a dairy revolution, the white revolution, wherein they empowered farmers, they created a support system, the ecosystem wherein the collection of milk happens in almost every village across the state or the country, which is processed and the brand has been given wherein people get a trusted brand to procure. So I proposed a similar model for Karnataka and recently I have submitted the revised version for Bihar as well. Where I said that until we provide a market linkage, until we provide a support system, until we make sure that what is being grown is consumed within the season, we cannot solve the problem. So millet has one problem since it doesn't need a pesticide or insecticide or chemical fertilizer. The shelf life is very, very low. So what is needed is to make sure that it is consumed, it is not kept for long duration because it can attract some worms. So that can be done like milk, right? Milk is produced, processed, packed, and within a couple of days people consume it. Similar thing needs to be done for millet also, wherein the government can provide a branded store. So for example, Karnataka has a Nandini store. It's a small store wherein they get from the federation, that is Karnataka Milk Federation, which goes to the retail store. People buy and consume immediately. A similar model is needed, which can also generate a large-scale livelihood for people. It could be FPO, it could be SHG, it could be individuals as a micro entrepreneur. I calculated that it could generate at least 1 million job opportunity within the state if we can nurture Karnataka Organic Federation. So this proposal I have submitted to Corporation Department, Government of Karnataka. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it is very simple. It is solving the problem. It is providing market linkage. It is also providing a mechanism to procure millet. It is providing mechanism to do a yield planning based on the data which is already calculated for ICDS, MDM, and PDS. If I include, even if you do not exclude all the wheat and rice that is being provided, even if you introduce around 20 to 30%, that itself is sufficient enough to start a negative curve for malnutrition, anemia, and many NCDs. And if we can provide that option to ICDS and MDM as a part of the procurement plan, in Karnataka, I estimated it will provide around 50,000 crore to the farmers. It will reduce the input cost because it is all rain-fed by and large, and maybe little irrigation is needed. It doesn't need any kind of toxic ingredient. It doesn't need too much of mechanized farming technique. Right, what farmer need is just a set of cows, which can be provided by animal husbandry. There are many schemes which are there, which can be integrated with a single window clearance. Yield planning can be done by the agriculture department, which I have already done, submitted to former chief secretary, government of Karnataka. This total quantum of requirement that is there. If we can do that, then once we provide the market link, is the way we are providing for wheat and this thing, the problem can be solved. So that is what I have done. Over to you, Madhaniji, for your input and guidance.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the explanation. The simple point which again I am trying to understand is that there is a Sri Anna scheme from the government of India since last 2-3 years, and there is each and every wish and will to move ahead in this direction. So what stops us to make the level playing field for these things, and how much years it is going to take?
So overall, what I concluded is I visited Niti Aayog, also interacted with them. Niti Aayog was supposed to work on execution plan, but it has remained exactly similar to Planning Commission. So they are creating policy, doing some experimentation in the aspirational district, but execution or enforcement is missing. Now we have strong policy, that is amendment in Schedule 2, that is National Food Security Act, which has a policy also. But enforcement is missing. It was shocking for me to that director is not even aware that such amendment has already happened. The letter which I received, that was also based on calorie chart and all that, and he said you are giving 400 to 600 calorie to 0 to 6 years. Why we don't have segregation? Then she said this is how it is. But when I started searching, I could not believe that you need to give 800 calorie to newborn or 6 months, and the same thing is applicable to even 5 to 6 years also. And that is where I was pleasantly surprised when I found that already amendment has been done to Schedule 2, wherein age-wise segregation has happened. For 0 to 6 is a different nutrition chart. For 6 months to 1 year it is different, 1 to 3 years it is different, 3 to 6 years different, for adolescent it is different, for pregnant it is different, lactating mother it is different. But the execution is missing. So what is happening today in the country is that there are some people who are passionate, but they have authority to create a policy. They have authority to do a recommendation, but the authority to execute is missing. Even in my case, when I started in the last meeting for the final review of IF, I said I have given many recommendations, but I am not able to execute all of that. The response came was that your role is to recommend, but execution is there with the department. So that needs to be changed. We need to work with the central government and see that how we can enforce the Saksham Anganwadi processes, how we can design the dietary intervention based on the dietary prevalence in the particular region, which is already there in the guidelines, wherein it says that every district commissioner or magistrate will have to have a nutrition committee which will look at the Food Security Act Amendment Schedule 2 and design the diet based on the dietary prevalence which is there in the region. For example, Mysore Mandia, the diet can be designed around ragi, where the ragi could be provided to people as a part of PTS and MDM or ICDS. Similar thing can be done with Sekala and Karnataka, that Gulbarga and the other region, wherein people used to consume bajra and jawar. Can we provide that option, and district administration with the nutrition committee as per Saksham Anganwadi Abhiyan can enforce. So enforcement is missing today, that is what I feel. So what I did parallelly is I created a outcome report based on my learning and shared with Art of Living, social project of Art of Living, wherein incidentally also played a role as an advisor, which has been submitted to Annapurna Devi, who is the Minister for WCD. But again, we need to do the similar lobby in the government department the way pharma does. The problem is anything which has a commerce attached. A lot of people who are sitting there and doing lobby driven by pharma and other industry, which is also driven by likes of global consulting firm like EY and BCG and Deloitte and all of that, right? We need to have people in sitting in the government to do a similar lobby wherein there's no vested interest, but with focus on solving the problem. So that is what I'm trying to do today. Over to you, Madani ji.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll continue this. Thank you.
So, shall we take the next thing today or maybe another podcast about the climate action? Vasudev ji, do we have time? We have crossed the time given to me.
We can, it depends upon the interest of the audience and the time limit which we have given. Can we have a second thing of working group members? Now the time is about 11:25.
Yeah.
How do we go about it?
So the next one, I want to share the climatic condition based on my learning, that how atmospheric river is rising, how I concluded that there's nothing much to do with carbon credit. It is contradictory to the common narrative, so I want to share more on that and how groundwater extraction has resulted into atmospheric river, how it has impacted the heat waves. So that kind of thing I would like to share maybe in the next session.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I think this subject is really very, very interesting, and it may take deep analysis, and we should get benefit of the sir's understanding and work in this field. So, whether it is possible to plan a separate podcast around this theme, that is what I am suggesting, perhaps. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm open to take question on the topic I discussed today, that is around NCDs, eradication, malnutrition, and anemia.
Over to the members for interaction. Karthi?
Pritamji, I just wanted to check if in any of the states, the execution part that you spoke about is being done differently in an efficient manner.
So I won't say efficiently, but yeah, it has started in Karnataka, wherein Bajra was introduced in ICDS with the support from Chief Secretary, and Ragi Malt has been introduced with the support of Annapurna Trust Satyasai institution.
Okay, I mean these two are non-government institutions, right? Like, can we say something like non-government organization or not-for-profit organization?
So Bajra is introduced within the ICDS framework, okay, to WCD for Anganwadi, and Ragi Malt is a non-government, that is Annapurna Trust and the Satyasai.
Karthi?
Now, the government of Karnataka has agreed to share a part of cost based on the success story and how children are loving getting a ragi malt with a chocolate flavor in the morning. That has also potentially reduced the dropout rate.
Okay.
Thank you, Sinhaji. It was really an insightful speech. We learned a lot from your. I wanted to get clarified one thing. We hear that Odisha is a forerunner in implementing organic or millet-based farming. They are very successful in implementing millet mission. So, do we have any lessons from Odisha's experience for other states, Sinhaji? Thank you.
I searched for Odisha, but I did not find anything other than the export that is happening from Odisha. So that was not very encouraging for me. I wanted to make sure that before you export, right, this will be implemented within the state. So that evidence I have not found till now.
Okay.
So they are exporting to Saudi Arabia and major place. That is the evidence I found. The tons of millet that is going out of the country.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, we work in Odisha, and we are working for a millet mission. As we understand that there is a minimum support price has been given for the millets compared to the market prices. But what is missing is whether the self-consumption of the millets is being taking place or not is main a question, or proper data is not available on that. Probably to our knowledge, it has been a staple food for many of the farmers who have been cultivating it and giving it. Probably a data insufficiency may be there in the case of millet part of it. Jagdishji?
Yeah, pranam to Pritam sir and everybody. I have one question to Pritam sir. You said that khapli gahu or khapli wheat is better for diabetes purpose. I somewhere read that jackfruit powder, if mixed in small proportion to wheat powder, is also useful for reducing type 2 diabetes. Is it correct? I just wanted your guidance.
Yeah. So what I said is when I started looking for the root cause why wheat is causing NCDs and anemia and malnutrition, I found that it has a gliding glycoprotein with a mucoadhesive property. And that is something which is getting stuck to the GI tract and that is where the load of toxic material accumulation starts in the body. Now, if you look at somebody with diabetes, you will find that they have if you have higher the diabetes, you have a higher the bloated stomach. What is that? So that is where I found that the toxic load is stuck, and that is adding something around 100 point of diabetic parameter. If you look at Ayurvedic perspective, people do a cleansing with a panchkarma and this anima or basti, or from yogic science they do kapalbhati or other exercises that helps to reduce the toxic load. And we know for sure that once we follow any of the Ayush based intervention, the number of diabetic parameter comes down within 100 within couple of days. So that is one way wherein people are going and getting treated in Ayurvedic center or naturopathy center and all that. Other option is to provide a high dietary fiber by mixing something which can reduce the impact of gluten or gliadin glycoprotein with a muco-adhesive property. That is where the jackfruit has a very high amount of dietary fiber that can help as a binding agent to take out the toxic material from the body. So that is where jackfruit powder may help.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I also did experimentation on using juice of carica papaya. So carica papaya has an enzyme called caricane, and caricane has the ability to break the peptide bond of gluten or gliadin glycoprotein. So there also I could see that the challenge of mucoadhesive property will get dismantled if you can add a little bit of carica papaya or green papaya juice as a part of making the atta dough and all that. So that can be prepared, can be kept for a couple of hours, and there also the challenges of many diseases will get reduced if you don't want to give up wheat at all. So that also has been experimented by me, but again the formal clinical trial can be done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the questions. Sinhaji, probably will be still you had something to continue, or is it completed the talk? We should be taking it, or something else is to be covered?
So this is this section is done. The next section I wanted to speak more on the challenges from the climate action, the climate change perspective because of green revolution. That how the water guzzling seeds extracted the groundwater, and that resulted into heat waves, that resulted into almost every challenge what we see from the climate action perspective. So the water that was there in the ground because of green revolution has been extracted, and people say that glacier melting and the sea level rising because of carbon footprint and all of that. So I wanted to give a different perspective here, that it is not just because of glacier melting and the carbon and all that. It is the water that has gone to the sea that has led to the sea level rise, that is causing tsunamis and all of that. And second thing, what we have seen in Wayanad, there was a river floating in the sky that came on the ground, right? And that kind of thing exists. The only solution what we have is to fill the ground.
Okay. Next time, I think probably we'll take it up in the next week. As such, we'll continue the podcast. Prior to that, Jagdish, you wanted to have some questions.
Yeah,
Jagdish,
see, since Isha Foundation is, also doing a lot of work with respect to soil and improvement of the soil quantity, the soil quality, I'm just asking Pritam sir, are you advising them because of your, this research and knowledge? If a couple of advice given to them can also contribute, to this cause.
I would love to. Actually, I funded for around 100 trees, but when I started asking that where these 100 trees are planted, there is no response. The challenge is many such as spiritual organizations are attracting a lot of money, but when you go back and ask that what did you do with the money, how it has been done, the question comes, how can you challenge a spiritual organization? Okay, so that is a problem, right? But Indian system is all about sastrartha. It is all about debate, discussion, right, without any vested interest. So I funded that, but I'm not able to find whether their action has really solved the problem in the Western Ghat. Lot of money has been collected, right? But
Yes.
if it's a way to go back and do a social impact assessment, what did not work, how it is moving, what is a change it has given to the Western Ghat, right? Those questions are not answered yet. Okay. So many such organizations, they do a large scale green washing. We have rejuvenated this many river, that many water body, but when you go and ask the question that where is the evidence, where the detailed report is published, where is the baseline information, what was it before that, what has changed, then there's a problem, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Considering the time part of it as 11:36 as such, we will continue the podcast in the subsequent weeks, sir. Thanks for your inputs as such. Given the constraints of the time, we will formally close this session with Raghunandanji's prayer.